So I'm Sean Singleton. I'm managing principal with Oglethorpe Capital, and I'm also a U.S. venture partner for Beaten Zone Ventures, which is based out of Brisbane, Australia. My strategic focus is to actually get the Australian Ministry of Defence and the U.S. Department of Defense to be in a much better symbiotic relationship. We have AUKUS Pillars 1 and 2. Some would say that's more policy than actual action, and so I'm trying to put the action with the actual policy. So, again, we are joined today by Mr. MacGregor, who is the Strategic Growth Director for Anduril Systems, or Anduril Industries? Industries, and I'll let Mac tell a little bit more about his background. Please, sir.
Hi. Yeah, nice to see everyone. Glad to. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so my background is acquisitions, primarily defense acquisitions in the Air Force. So I was sort of half military, half civilian. So I got kind of both sides of that. And I was on the F-35 program as a civilian, and then I spent about 5 to 6 years in the Pentagon in different acquisition roles, doing congressional budgeting stuff. So I think, between like my direct PM experience and F-35 and then a lot of the headquarters stuff, I think I've seen the most of the life cycle. Really haven't done that much in sustainment. That's probably my weak spot. But yeah, I've seen a lot of the life cycle, seen a lot of changes. I worked for Dr. Roper during that time. So it was that period where like we were trying to move out of that paradigm of these 15-year MDAP programs, like everything took 15 years to field, and trying to get people to think faster, shorter timelines, rapid prototyping, get a solution out to the field that you can iterate on over time and improve, but give the warfighter something, right? Instead of leaving them hanging for over a decade. So yeah, so as part of that acquisition policy, helped roll out like middle tier of acquisition policy as part of that team, and helped implement it on the Air Force side. So at least the first year of it. So got some of the programs going, and then on the just up the volume on me, and then on then software pathway. When the software pathway policy came out, I was part of an OSD team that helped roll that out and support it. In once I left government, I worked for MITRE. So as a MITRE person, I was supporting OSD A&S, and we basically, for about 2.5 years, it's kind of crazy, but for about 2.5 years, we tried to teach like agile software development, like we were trying to do with MTA, to think shorter time frames, things like that. We were trying to do that with software to get people to think about like, MVP. What is an MVP? You don't need to like put someone on contract for a 500-page list of backlog items. You actually need to pick something that's usable, adds capability, get it out there and work on. So yeah, so that's my background. And then I came to Anduril literally only 7 months ago, but it feels kind of like many years ago. So yeah.
Appreciate that. And so we'll get into a little bit of your DoD background in a little bit. But if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit of the origin story of Anduril, and also, too, what attracted you to the company? How did they find you? How did they bring you in? And what has that process been like up to this point so far?
Sure. And I'm not sure I'm going to do all that much justice to the origin of the company, but I think everyone knows Palmer Luckey, and, he had a vision for seeing all this defense tech, right? I'm sorry, not tech, the technology in Silicon Valley, seeing all this technology is being developed in all these companies, innovative companies all through the Valley, and then going and starting to have conversations. He's always sort of had a passion for the military, and so he started to have conversations with different defense leaders, and he was just seeing that there was none of the trickle, like none of the stuff in the Valley was really getting into defense tech. And Mike Brown, there's other people that kind of saw this, Ash Carter, they were all part of that same movement that started to see this. But Palmer Luckey was like, hey, I have some money, sold Oculus, did got some Facebook, probably got some Facebook equity, I don't know. But and so he had money to put into it. And he's like, I'm gonna try to start doing some things to solve some of these problems. And so that's where with Brian Schimpf and some of the other exec team, Trey Stevens, he pulled together, a core group. Chris Bros pulled together a core group and said, okay, what can we get after? And they developed Lattice, which is kind of our underlying software. It's essentially a very extensible, modular kind of way of integrating systems and being able to make sense, get the data in a place that you can start to make sense with it with other things, and feed it into other systems to create effects. So it started from there, and then they added on other companies, Area I for some air launched effects stuff, copious imaging. So that kind of led to like the development of the WISP, and now we have Iris is another system, basically some IR imaging kind of stuff, and then They bought like Blue Force Technologies. Always want to say Fury, but Blue Force Technologies, which led to the development of the Fury, and now it's competing in the CCA program. And we bought Adranos and set up a solid rocket motor company that's independent, so we don't compete with them. They can sell to other companies. So that one's like sort of a separate division from Anduril. But yeah, we bought a bunch of different. I think I'm missing. Oh yeah, Dive Tech. Dive Tech was the one that we bought for our undersea business line, and that's been going really good with some of our work with Australia, and now we have more direct work with the Navy to get some lower cost underwater vehicles that can do, some pretty powerful missions and really help with that Indo-Pacific fight. And then really recently we bought Numerica, which is like a battle space awareness company that's done. Ironically, have done a lot of missile defense, so the timing we kind of laugh is like really good. But that company is really bringing some new capabilities that can really integrate well with Lattice and some of our other sensors to do some interesting stuff. So yeah, it's been a journey.
Got it. And so I imagine all of those acquisitions and the charge that Palmer has to you and the rest of the company, it was one of the things that motivated you to join the enterprise that is Anduril. Is that fair?
Yeah, I 100%. As an acquisition person, I'm sure there's other people in this room that can relate to this, but I had to work with Lockheed and Northrop and Raytheon, and they produce some amazing stuff. So I give them a lot of props. There's a lot of technology out there that's eye-blowing, or mind-blowing and eye-watering, and all the acronyms, and you see it, you go, oh, my word. So we need that. There's a place for that. And but as a company, my experience with them on the acquisition side was that they were extremely bloated, and in terms of the bureaucracy and how many levels they had to go through for simple things, and very hard to negotiate with. It was just very burdensome. So I had no appetite to go work and put myself into that environment. So there were only a few companies I would have worked for, and Anduril was number one on the list. So I was starting to look and see what can I do in this space, how can I help, and I was happy that I was able to get on board, and yeah.
Awesome. Well, they're much better for having you there. And so I remember when the company was created in 2017, I actually had the opportunity of running into Palmer at the Reagan National Defense Forum in 2018, and he was sort of laying out his grand strategy as far as how the firm was going to sort of develop, right? I think your mission is to become the first large-scale systems integrator that has, the last one that was created was 1923. Yeah, I think something along those lines. So this would be the first time in almost 100 years that you have a new mainline systems integrating firm coming about in the form of Anduril. So that's really interesting and really cool. Anduril is also a recipient of a DIU production contract, which if you were here for the first panel, we talked about the value of that. And so I encourage you to continue on working with DIU and all the other entities across the DoD spectrum, because I think you're a huge agent of change. And Lockheed, all of them are great, but you all seem to have, definitely more momentum going behind you.